about here are going to be the Cisco 4000 series, 2900 series, and the 1900 series routers. Now, CCNA version 7 labs were built and designed using the 4221 Cisco router and the 2960 Plus switch. Here we're going to talk about the variety of Cisco routers that you may find in a classroom because the equipment you have might vary. So let's get started, and we're going to hit router 1 first, which is the 4000 series router. In our topology, we've got a Gig 001 interface going down to a PC. We've got the Gigabit 000 interface using a SFP, small form factor pluggable fiber transceiver. And we've got the Serial 010, which is utilizing a NIM, the Network Interface Module expansion slot with a serial card installed. So let's get started inside of the operating system and take a look at these interfaces using some show commands. The first show command to know is going to be our show IP interface brief. And with this modifier of brief, we'll get an easy yet very, very beautiful output for our interfaces that we have deployed. On this 4000 series router, we've got Gigabit Ethernet 000 as it's displayed in the topology. We've got Gigabit Ethernet 001, which is also displayed in the topology, connecting down to PC1. We've got Serial 010, which is using our Network Interface Module expansion slot, which has a serial card installed. Also, we've got Serial 011, which is not in use, and then there's a Gigabit Ethernet 0 as well. Well, let's take a closer look at this Gigabit 000. And to do this, we'll use the command show interface, followed by that exact port, which is Gigabit Ethernet 000. And when I hit enter, I want to show you something that's very important here. This is going to be a fiber connection, but how can we see that on the router? Well, inside of the output for our show interface Gigabit Ethernet 000, we can look for something called media type. And here on this line, we'll be able to see that we're running full duplex 1 gigabit connectivity, and media type is SX. This is very different than taking a look at an RJ45 copper Ethernet connection. We can compare this Gigabit Ethernet 000 port to the Gigabit Ethernet 001. Let's do that next. I'll do another show command, and this will be show interface, followed by Gigabit Ethernet 00/1. And let's take a look at the media type of this port. We see the line full duplex again, we see a speed, and then at the end of that we see media type is RJ45. This means that we're talking copper Ethernet connectivity as compared on the last port, which is SX, which is using a fiber transceiver. Awesome. So for us at this time, we should do a small configuration to have these ports up and running, both with IP addressing and activated. To do that, let's play with the fiber port and go from there. I'm going to enter my global configuration mode because this is where I make changes on the router. And to do that, that's the command config space T. Now, config space T doesn't do anything until I hit the enter key. So I'll hit enter, and you'll see my prompt change to my global configuration mode. Now in this mode, I can use my command interface Gigabit Ethernet 0/0/0, and once I hit enter, I'm now configuring that fiber transceiver. For me, I'll put an IP address on. We'll make this easy. How about a 10.0.0.1, and I'll give myself a subnet mask, ending with a 252. You can see that I shortened the word address to just add, and it'll take this command just fine here. When I hit enter, the IP address is applied, and I'll use the command no shutdown to bring this fiber transceiver up. Interface Gigabit 000 is now configured, so let's head over to the 2900 series router and take a look at bringing this fiber link up on the other side. And what we're going to notice is those port identifiers, they're rather different. So here on the 2900 series router, we're going to start just like we did on the 4000. Let's use a popular show command, and that's show IP interface followed by the modifier brief. And with this, we'll be able to see all the ports on our router and their corresponding interface identifiers. For example, we've got 3 Gigabit Ethernet ports on this 2900 series box, and we have Gigabit Ethernet 00, 01, and 02. This is very different than what we saw in the 4000 series, which was Gigabit Ethernet 001 and 000. So keep in mind, these interface identifiers are going to change based off of the model of your device that you're using. Also, they'll change based off of your expansion slots. For example, on this 2900 series router, it's not shown in the picture, but there are 4 serial ports available on this box using the enhanced high-speed WAN interface card. So for us, let's focus on that Gigabit Ethernet 0/1. I'm going to go into my global configuration mode. Again, this is where we're able to make our changes on our router. And with that config T command, hitting enter, we have moved into the configuration mode. Now I can go into that interface with the command interface, Gigabit Ethernet 0/1. When I click enter, we are now in our config if mode for that port. We're going to configure this thing. I will put an IP address of 10.0.0.2 because the other side was .1. And again, the corresponding subnet mask. Now we need to bring this port online, so we'll use our no shutdown command, and I'll hit enter, and we'll get some status changes that are going to occur here. Our gig 01 is coming up, there it is, and we'd like to verify the media type of this interface, just like we've done on the other side. So I'm going to type in end, that'll take me back to my privileged exec mode, that pound sign we see there, and I'll use my show interface, followed by Gigabit Ethernet 0/1. That's to verify this. And what we're looking for here is going to be media type. If I scroll through this, we'll see that we've got full duplex. All right, that's great. 1 gig per second speed, that's awesome. And there it is. Media type is SX. This is different compared to RJ45 that we saw previously on the 4000 series Gig 001 port. So let's go into our Gig 02 interface on the 2900 series and finish our deployment, and then hop into the 1900 series. I'm going to go back into my configuration mode, which is using config T. I'm going to go into my interface, followed by Gigabit Ethernet E02. Awesome. And now in Gigabit Ethernet 0/2, this is the port on the right side of the 2900. I'm going to put an IP address here. And for this, we'll do IP address, followed by a 172.16.0.1, and same subnet mask as before. To bring this interface online, we'll use our no shutdown command. And now this port is also configured. So let's take a look at our third router, which is going to be our 1900 series, and do some configuration over there. On our 1900 series router, we're going to start it just like we've done before, a show IP interface brief command. From here we can see our port identifiers. They're very similar to the 2900 series, Gigabit Ethernet 00 and 01. You notice we actually have less ports here in the 1900 series. It is a different model than in the 2900, and it's a little bit smaller. So we've got 2 Gigabit Ethernet ports, as well as I have an expansion slot in use with that high-speed WIC card slot, and that's for those serial lines. We're going to use the Gigabit 01, which connects us over to the 2900 series. So we're going to enter our configuration mode with config T, and then we'll go into our interface, followed by Gigabit Ethernet 0/1. Inside of here, we'll finish our addressing with an IP address 172.16.0.2, because the other side was 1. And we'll use our subnet mask of all 255s ending with a 252. We need to make sure this interface is activated, so we'll use our no shutdown command, and we'll get some status messages populating here. When everything is up on our side of the house, we'll do some ping tests and make sure we have connectivity to the other side. To do those